like to call the Administration and Finance Committee to order. Would everyone please have a seat so we can get started on our next committee meeting?
Ken, are you leaving?
Okay, may we take a roll call?
Dr. Volpe?
Here.
Dr. Volpe is present. Ms. Castillo?
Here.
Ms. Castillo is present. Dr. Davis?
Here.
Dr. Davis is present. Ms. Ellis? Ms. Ellis is not present. Mr. Barbie? Here. Mr. Barbie is present. Ms. Holloway?
Here.
Ms. Holloway is present. Mr. Melanie?
Here.
Mr. Melanie is present. Mr. Morris?
Here.
Mr. Morris is present. Ms. Orange Jones? Ms. Orange Jones is not present. Mr. Rock? Mr. Rock is present. And Ms. Boucher?
Here.
Boucher is present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. We've had a request to move item 4.5 up on the agenda. We have some people here to speak on it, so may I have a motion to do so, please?
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Holloway, second Dr. Davis. Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, motion passes.
Ms. Boucher?
Yes.
May I have a moment for this, please?
Yes.
So, I wanted to take a moment today, not just on behalf of myself and our agency team, but on behalf of, I think I feel confident in speaking for the board as a whole, Ms. Boucher, in just sharing our appreciation that we have for you. As I understand, you have marked 50 years as an educator, and you have served the students of Louisiana well through some tremendous points and challenging points in Louisiana's history. And we did not want to miss an opportunity as educators, as community members, as your family and friends and fellow board members, to just take a moment to say thank you for a lifetime of advocacy for children and communities and work to get kids what they need and deserve. And for many of us, I've been doing this work as a superintendent for about a decade. You double my time as a superintendent, but for many of us, you're a mentor in many ways. And so I want you to know how much you mean to me. And on behalf of your 50 years in education, we have a few things for you. Number one, we have a certificate, and I'll read it. But it just says, the State Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, Louisiana Department of Education, present this certificate of appreciation and resolve to Ms. Doris Boucher for serving the state of Louisiana for 50 years and going. Your valuable contributions and unwavering efforts are recognized and appreciated by your colleagues throughout the state, presented on this day. So just know that I am thankful for you. I am thankful for what you've done, and I appreciate you, and wanted to give you this recognition and this bouquet, and certainly we have some members, I believe, of your family and community that are here to see this. But this presentation is not just for me, but it's for members of this board as well, who felt equally inspired to take a pause and just say thank you for your 50+ years of service.
Well, not sure exactly what to say at this point. This was somewhat of a surprise. If I'm truly your mentor, and you listen to me after 50 years of this, I don't know why we're having some of these discussions. We're having, I just tell you, we're reasonable
How did I know that was coming?
people.
I thought it would be later, not now.
No. I thought it was very funny because the governor just texted me a little while ago and said, thank you for your 50 years of service and education. And I'm saying, where did that come from?
That had nothing to do with me. I don't know where he figured that one out.
Well, I don't know that. You know, we've had a very, very long morning. I know a lot of people are here waiting for us to continue with our business. But you know, as I look back a little bit over these 50 years, and I'll try to be just very, very brief. And I started in 1971 as a teacher at Chelmsford High School. And we were involved in one of the quote reform movements of the time, which was continuous progress, individualized instruction. And we're one of the leaders throughout the United States, really, in what was called the Model Schools Project to do this. And as a very young teacher, I flew all over the country doing workshops and seminars and participating in what at that time was known as the reform movements. And we see a lot of that resurfacing over the years, and especially today when we're talking about not only students' IEPs, but students' IAIPs, and every individual plan that we have for our students to progress. You know, we also did the year-round school, which is now coming back in many discussions with the balanced calendar. And I see Trey nodding his head over here, and he was involved in a lot of that, I know, at those times as well. But I think one thing that I've learned overall in the 50 years is really the most important thing that we can do for every child in the state is to put a qualified and good teacher in every classroom. And we've had those discussions before. And hopefully in the couple of years that I have left on this board, I really do want to make that a main focus in making sure that we've got quality teachers in each school. And to look at our accountability program as well to reflect, you know, all of this back and forth that we're doing with the accountability, but to really reflect what's good for kids and to be able to celebrate every child's accomplishments. So when we set individual goals and we say every kid has to achieve this mastery by this time, I think we lose the basic tenet that we all believe every child can learn. But we've got to realize that not all children learn as much at the same time, and it takes different periods of time for them to master these particular concepts. So if we really are going to look at differences in what we value as an accountability system, I wish there was some way that we could begin to take a look at these individual groups of kids. We talked about earlier the most challenging students, the students who don't have the opportunities that maybe your children and our children have. But anyway, that's enough said. I know we have a very long day. I do appreciate this. Kate, I want to recognize some people I see in the audience.
They want to come down for a photo.
Okay, I have, well, just both of my brothers are here, Paul and Tommy Boche. Y'all stand up, my sister-in-law Kathy, three of the most important people in my life, and then we have some of our, I guess some people in my school system, our assistant superintendent, Mary Lametta, and our head of the elementary instruction. You ever need somebody to talk to you about the trends in elementary education, Lena Harleton, my chief financial officer, runs all of our business operations, who I taught and trained, obviously, David Fernandez. And do I really see Guy? Is that you, Ryan?
He's high.
Huh?
Yes.
Guy, this is our parish president, Guy McGinnis, who I taught in high school as well. So when we get into all of these things that need to be done, Guy and I work extremely close together. And I want to thank you very much, Guy, for making the trip up here this morning. I didn't realize that all this would happen. So y'all want to take a quick picture maybe? Yeah, this Guy, you want to Guy always wants to say something.
No.
And Guy, and let me just say this. Guy played basketball not only in high school, but at McNeese College, and graduated in accounting, went into the business world, made a big mark for himself there, but really truly loved education and kids. Came back to be one of our coaches and such in our school system, and then has 3 beautiful daughters, all of whom are teachers. 2 with us in St. Bernard, and 1 at Carly's at Thibodeau, in Lafourche. So
Susie, would you like to come down, or do you want them in front of you?
I can come down. How do you want to
Come on
go?
down.
Come on down.
Bring your flowers, this is a bit for all 50 years.
Good. Thank you all so much.
Luckily, we don't have to kind of stop around. People I think that's they would have a food pantry. She's out there.
I didn't even put them on.
It's more babies are hard. For different and once they are.
He looks so good on TV. Skip. Skip. Is that my husband? Yeah, I put that in there. And he's a sweetheart. I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's very tired. So he does a lot of school. So some school. So we have a lot in common. I teach them and then he sees me. He makes sure the building. Yeah. There you go. Send him my regards.
Well, I was actually born. The old lady who was actually here back in the where the first circuit is, like I said, the lady in the lake.
Very much. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all been waiting all day. But anyway, could I have a motion to move item 4.5 to the top of the agenda, please?
You have one.
We already have it.
Yes, Ms. Holloway and Dr. Davis.
And any objection? We already did that.
Yes.
She has done it all. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'll recuse from item 4.5.
Okay. Well, we have lots of public comment.
We just, yeah.
This is just a motion to move it to the top, so you want to read it?
On page 130, item 4.5, consideration of federal and state grants and allocations to LEAs, Type 2 charters, Type 5 charters, approved non-public schools and community-based organizations, competitive and other. Recommendation is to approve.
May I have a motion, please? Motion by Ms. Morris, second by Mr. Rock. Any discussion before I go to public comment?
Castile recused.
Okay. Public comment, Johnny Rowland from Webster. If y'all could come up, and Laura Roussel, Jackson Parish Schools, support, wish to speak. If y'all would come to the table, please. Dr. Lynette Oaken, St. John Baptist, wish to speak. Rowland, you identify yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Rowland, before you start, Ms. Roche, if I could just call out a couple of items in this that are covered here. One, we have a couple of systems, we have a number of systems that are considering a balanced calendar approach and offering to provide additional time for their students to come in for academic instruction, tutoring, as well as elective enrichment opportunities. We do have funding in here for a number of those systems to support financing that opportunity. We also have in this particular allocation something that you mentioned earlier. We have about a little over $5 million in allocations that will go to school systems. And what we have done is we have identified the 50 schools in the state that saw the most significant decrease in mastery levels, and then the 50 schools in the state that saw the most significant increase in unsatisfactory numbers. And so one of the things that we're doing is we're going to push in an additional $50,000 of our state agency set-aside dollars for those schools in particular, so that they have an additional level of support around attendance and well-being, recovery and acceleration, and professional learning. So that $5 million allocation is for those 50 schools that saw the greatest decrease in mastery rates and 50 who saw the greatest increase in unsat rates. And so I just wanted to call out that those allocations were present here in this particular item.
Thank you, Superintendent. Mr. Rowland.
Okay, my name is Johnny Rowland. I'm superintendent at West Prairie School Board, and it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you, members BESE, Superintendent Brumley. Thank you for inviting me to come. It's a real honor to be here before you. Thank you for your service, Mr. Wojcik. I want to say just a few brief words about the West Prairie School Board's adoption of the balanced calendar option for the 2021-22 school year. It's something that we do have in place now, something that we are extremely excited about, something that is going to yield great benefits, especially in the area of improved student learning outcomes. We knew last year early on that we were going to have to take bold new steps to increase the learning gaps that we all know have occurred as a result of COVID-19. We're now going on over a year and a half where we are experiencing great difficulties. As a matter of fact, I would like for you to know that the first 4 weeks of this school year, not last school year, this particular school year, we experienced higher quarantine numbers and positive COVID rates than we ever experienced last year. And I think that's important to note that we are far from being out of the woods with COVID-19 and its ramifications. However, we are beginning to get our legs under us much better and learning how to manage this travesty that has occurred for all of us. What we tried to do was identify a way that we could provide more immediate interventions for students that are in need based on what the data tells us. So what we have done, we have devised a calendar that took 4 weeks from the summer vacation. The summertime is now 7 weeks long. We took 4 weeks and put it into our school year. So what we have done now is break the year up into 9-week blocks to be followed by an intersession period where students are selected by what the data shows us to provide intervention time then instead of waiting until the summer. So this is nothing but just part of our plan to provide interventions for our students. In addition to the intervention plan that we do daily in our schools, in addition to our summer learning programs, we see this as one big package to address reducing learning gaps. Also, we are hopeful that it is going to reduce or improve teacher attendance rates. We hope that burnout will not be as big of a problem, especially in COVID times, where teachers now can possibly experience 2-week intervals during the school year, one in October, one in February, one in April. And then we also hope that student attendance will be better along with improved student discipline data. We just felt like to address the whole student, our students now and our parents and stakeholders now need us more than ever. And we just felt like by reducing the lengthy summertime and shortening that down, that not only would it improve or it would address the learning gap, it would also help us to accommodate our students with feeding programs, accommodate our students in improving mental health counseling, etc. So this is our first year. We are hopeful it's going to be a success. Of course, it's just for 1 year, and our board will reconsider this spring. But I'm a big advocate for this. Very hopeful that we do see great results from it, and look forward to what the future holds. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roller. Mr. Sal?
Hello, my name is Laura Roussel. I am the Chief Academic Officer in Jefferson Parish. And I'd like to speak regarding the additional funds which are earmarked for seven actually of our schools in Jefferson who experienced significant learning loss from 2019 to 2021. As a whole, Jefferson Parish has a cohesive and robust plan to address learning loss and recovery across all of our schools. Through things such as attendance interventions, re-engagement efforts with our students by increasing the number of behavior interventionists to address chronic absenteeism. Also partnering with Children's Hospital in NOLA to provide 10 additional mental health professionals who can provide direct clinical services to our schools. Also hiring additional bilingual counselors and social workers in order to address the behavioral and mental health of our EL students. Building community circles, adding classroom libraries for our K through 3rd grade classes, created an academy within one of our middle schools to address and target overage middle school students, offering pre-ACT and ACT for all of our 9th and 10th graders, a continuation of what we consider to be a successful summer bridge this past summer, providing strategic after-school programs to continue to accelerate student learning, which is beyond our school day, and then also strategic leadership professional development. Adding literacy coaches, expanding our pre-K seats, as well as implementing a data dashboard. In tandem with all of that we want to provide to each of our schools. This additional set-aside funding would allow our schools in Jefferson who experience the most significant learning loss to implement a more robust, more strategic after-school acceleration program for their early literacy efforts for students in grades K through 3rd. This would complement our Tier 1 curriculum implementation and our additional acceleration time that is already embedded in our school day across all of our K through 8th grade ELA classes. As per our summer bridge, our summer program this past summer, Jefferson Parish targeted phonological awareness, phonics, text, as well as writing over 17 days, which was the length of our summer program, across 17 sites. We saw promising results. Because of this promising data, we want to use a very similar approach for these set-aside funds in those schools that are targeted in Jefferson. Addressing all of the learning loss is our mission, of course, for our students in Jefferson Parish, but we know that a strategic and a specific plan that targets the gaps felt by our earliest readers will support our students as they progress in all learning areas beyond 3rd grade. These set-aside funds will allow us to approach with equity as we address more intensity for our schools who experienced larger losses. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rousseau. Dr. Woodman? And while Dr. Woodman's getting ready, we have Patrick Jenkins, Allison Hughes, and Kay Corley. Would you please come? Dr. Woodman.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Lynette McFinn, Superintendent of St. John the Baptist Parish Schools. We are extremely grateful to receive additional funding. As stated in the previous meeting, we know that the pandemic has exacerbated learning loss and achievement gaps. In St. John the Baptist Parish, we understand the three major components, and the funding is definitely needed. We know that attendance and well-being is crucial when you're speaking about the social and emotional needs of scholars. In terms of professional development, it is going to be a priority to ensure that our teachers increase their pedagogical skills. And we know that we need a highly effective teacher in the classroom. In terms of recovery, we know that we are going to utilize the funding for several avenues. Individualized scholar learning plans are definitely needed to increase their mastery skills. Materials to support intervention plans and other additional instructional time. Tutoring, we cannot forget differentiation instruction, and this needs to take place. We tried this in our summer program, and it worked. As far as our high schools, we plan to partner with Career Compass of Louisiana to service grades 9 through 12, and also to have developmental plans with our existing high school scholars. We conducted surveys with our families, and we know that we were an area that was heavily devastated by Hurricane Ida. We got a plethora of responses, and we know that we have scholars who will return in person. With that being said, it's going to be our mission to ensure that those individual pathways are secured with our teachers who can definitely deliver that type of quality instruction. Like the state superintendent said, there was no playbook for this pandemic. But in order to ensure that our scholars master the concepts, we have to embed more instructional time before and after school, embed those intervention blocks during the school day, increase rigor, of course, but also not to forget the component of supporting our teachers. We know that education could possibly be a revolving door in most, right? Especially under this pandemic and after the hurricane. But the more attention that we give to our professionals in this field of education, the more quality of teaching and learning that we will see on a daily basis. So thank you for the additional funding.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins, Ms. Hughes.
Good afternoon. Congratulations, Ms. Roche, on your service of 50 years. Definitely appreciate that. To the state of Louisiana and also to the parish. First of all, I'd like to thank each of you, probably for the opportunity to receive the funding to be able to address our significant learning losses in the parish. We've identified at least 5 schools that will be able to receive state funding, and it's going to be critical to be able to continue to increase academic programming in those schools. This past summer, we had an opportunity to serve in K through 8 specifically over 3,200 students in our, as we call it, our Camp Accelerate program. Those students had an opportunity to address math and science and social studies, as well as other extracurricular activities throughout, such as robotics and so forth. So we provided a very robust program this summer for our students. And in grades 9 through 12 specifically, we were able to provide more opportunities for our students to receive things such as Jumpstart programs and other career-related programming for those students. So this funding that we'll be receiving will give us an opportunity again to address that significant learning loss with specifically our K-4 students. Those students will have before and after school programming. We have started the process of identifying those students and also teachers so that we can begin this process very soon. This additional funding will definitely look in terms of our socio-emotional components within our schools. We know that that plays a critical role in how children learn and how the impacts of COVID has affected them. And so we want to be able to provide those resources in and out of the classroom. We partner with a number of agencies, local hospitals, local counselors in our communities to be able to provide these socio-emotional components. We have also partnered with many vendors to provide professional development with our teachers as well as our professional staff and as well as our administrators. One such the vendor that we participated with, partnered with is NIET. We've been working with them throughout the summer to provide more opportunities in professional learning for our administrators. And we're going to see great benefits as we move towards the professional standards rubric with our administrators. So again, I'd just like to say today that we appreciate the support and also the additional funding being provided with this particular grant. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth.
Hello, Allison Hughes, Superintendent in Red River. I as well would like to say that we certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here and we appreciate the additional funding. Being from a small rural parish, anything extra helps us out. So we are actually, Red River Parish is actually in our second full year of the balanced calendar. We can say that we have data that it works. We have some very positive discipline data. We have very positive teacher retention data, teacher attendance data, student attendance data, as well as student achievement data. We have looked at our students who attended our intercessions, and their achievement was markedly better this past year than it, because of the result of the intercessions. This money will go to fund our intercessions. And I can tell you that the first year we were able to offer 2 intercession periods. Our first one was canceled due to COVID. We had a huge turnout. 70% of the students that were invited came to intercession, and that was with no transportation being offered at all. So this year we're going to expand our intercession activities to include a lot of enrichment, as well as academic recovery efforts, remediation with our Tier 1 curriculum. First year it cost us around $175,000. This year we'll expand to over $200,000 that we will put into our intercession periods for our children. So we appreciate the additional funding that's going to allow us to continue our balanced calendar efforts on Red River Parish. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And we have Clay Corley from DeSoto Parish who supports the recommendation but does not wish to speak. Any questions or discussion on board members?
I have a recusal.
Okay. Dr. Rolton? Oh, recused. Mr. Castile as well? Do you want to read it?
Do you have the specifics noted? Okay, thanks.
Okay, any objections to the motion? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item.
Okay. Moving back to the top of the agenda, your consent agenda is ready for approval, adding items 4.1, 4.2, 6.1, 6.2, 7.1, and pulling item 3.3.
Motion. Holloway, second. Morris. Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item, please.
On page 54, item 3.3, consideration of emergency policy waivers approved by the BESE president under interim authority. The recommendation is to ratify the waivers of BESE policies related to the effects of Hurricane Ida.
Motion ratified.
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Volpe, second by Mr. Morris. We have one comment. Cynthia opposing.
Congratulations, Ms. Doris. I'll be brief. Cynthia Posey with Louisiana Federation of Teachers. We do understand that these waivers are in response to a disaster, but a disaster does not alter the fact that a teacher's working environment is a student's learning environment. The reason we are having to ask for these waivers is again a failure of the education and legislative leadership to address the recruitment and retention of qualified teachers. We keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. If you can pass waivers and policy for all other education stakeholders, why do you pointedly ignore the plight of educators? Temporarily increasing class size will not improve academic outcomes. You're treating the symptoms, not treating the illness. Again, actions speak louder than words. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Who seconded that motion?
Mr. Morris.
Oh, so I got it, okay.
Okay, any objection to the motion? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item.
On page 99, item 4.3, consideration of a report from Education Finance staff concerning BESE authorized charter school budgets and expenditure reports, including irregularities or concerns. The recommendation is to receive the report.
Motion to receive.
So moved.
Dr. Wilkie, second Dr. Davis. Do you have any comments on the report? No? Any questions concerning the report? Dr. Davis.
So I have a question, and it's also similar to the question that pertains to the audits that were under the consent agenda. It is about repetitive violations and how they're addressed. And so in particular on this agenda item with type 2 charter schools, we had 10 out of the 45 schools that did not meet the 70% of their budget being spent on instruction. And some of them were just like a little bit off, and so that's not a big concern. But there were 3 or 4 of them that were at, hovering at the less than 60% mark. And so my question is, how many years can go by when they're not meeting that 70% mark, and what are the avenues by which the department goes about trying to correct these percentages?
So I know that Deputy Superintendent Vescino want to come forward and talk through this a little bit, but it's not charters alone that aren't meeting the 70%. It's some of our traditional public systems as well that have routinely not met that specific requirement. That you can come to the table and talk a little bit more about this, but other than improvement planning and conversation with our agency, really the legislation doesn't go much deeper than that in terms of consequence. But Beth, you can certainly speak to that.
That's with the department. The 70% is within the MFP resolution, and it does not have any specific implications or consequences for not meeting it. What the process allows right now is we take that measurement on an annual basis, and then we actually work pretty closely with the school systems to see what the issue is. A lot of times it turns out being bad data reporting. They submit their financial information to us, and we are not able to detect in the current system little intricacies that might impact their 70%. But we do work very closely with anybody who fails it to a great degree, and we work through data issues with them. And then we also ask, they're required to look at their non-instructional spending so that they can see if there's ways to economize. Oftentimes we will have meetings and calls with them, perhaps get some good ideas from some other systems that we worked with through the years that have cut costs so that they can reduce their non-instructional spending and move that money into instruction. There are a number of systems that just struggle, and they have always struggled with that requirement. They seem to have some base cost that they'll never be able to overcome. Some of them, those rural school systems,
That's what I was going to ask, is it our
very right. That is one of the major costs that just sort of puts them out of compliance. So we do work very closely with them on that 70%. Does that answer?
It does, yes. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item, please.
On page 104, item 4.4, consideration of LPE and RSD contracts of $50,000 and over. The recommendation is to approve. Correction was made to the executive track, and that handout has been distributed.
I have a motion. So moved by Mr. Rock, second by Dr. Davis. Any discussion or questions?
No, I'll just point out that you have before you the contract with LSU, who is going to be partnering with us on the ACT review. We talked about that for some time. Our ACT results have continued to decline in our state, and we're asking them to take a comprehensive look at what might be some of the rationale for that happening. And so just know that at some point we'll be coming back to the board with a report around their findings.
Do you have any idea about when that might be?
Dr. Chesson, you want to come talk through that particular scope of work?
Jenna Chasson, from the Department of Ed. So the work is actually kicking off very soon, so within the next few weeks. The participants are all Louisiana educators who are participating in the ACT alignment study will begin that work. And we hope to bring the board an update in January with the findings of that report.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a recusal for 4.4, the JAG aim high, please.
All right, Dr. Davis.
I have a recusal with 4.4 to the LSU contract.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item, please.
On page 156, item 5.1, consideration of AG funding cycle activities, approval of AG statewide programs for fiscal year 2021-2022. Recommendation is to approve.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Morris, second by Mr. Garber. Any questions, comments? Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item.
That concludes your agenda.